Good morning, campers. We are so excited to announce that an ambitious raccoon named Tom Nook has officially purchased the camp and installed himself as head counselor. So, from now on, all cabin upgrades are to go through him. And as we go forward, if you find any cherries or fossils around camp, make sure to sell them at the camp store because we are now wildly in debt. Additionally, as a staff, we have collectively decided that our weekly boys versus girls camp competitions are going to be coming to an end. You know, given the times, we have determined that it really no longer makes sense to risk that many counselor injuries each week. And if we can't go all out, it's really just not worth it. So, that's all we really have for you this morning. We hope you have a fantastic day here at Campus Life. Hey man, are you okay?
Oh, yeah, man. I'm good. But hey, thanks for checking up.
I just wanted to check on you. Jeremy, are you okay?
Yeah. What? Why? Yeah.
Hey. I saw you from over there. Are you okay?
Dude, calm down. Yes, I'm okay. You know, Marley, I haven't told anybody this, but I gotta tell you, man, I don't think I'm okay.
So when I was a kid, my dad traveled a lot for work. Every week he'd fly out on Monday morning and fly back on Thursday evening. And I would be so excited when he came home because every time he came back from a trip, he would bring me and my little brother these Milano chocolate cookies and maybe a gift or a trinket from wherever he was at. Like, sure, we were happy he was home, but we were excited about the gifts. And so the last 6 weeks, we've talked about all these ways that people try to be happy. You know, getting more stuff, having more friends, being more successful, getting to do whatever we feel like doing. And I've tried these things too and just found that every single one of them comes up empty. Like, sure, they're fun for a moment. Sure, they can make you happy for a fleeting second, but then that hunger comes back, right? You're just left feeling empty and looking for something else. And what I've come to believe is that those things, those ways that we try to be happy, are a lot like me as a kid. Like, we're excited about the gifts. We're excited about the things that we think we're going to get, and we think those things are going to make us happy and fulfilled. But we ignore the one who gives us those things. We forget that the only reason we live and breathe and exist in this world is because there's a God who created us and wants relationship with us. We love the gift, but we ignore the giver. It actually reminds me of the story that Jesus told about a son who decides to leave home and take his inheritance. Now, inheritance is what you get when your parents die and you receive the things that they owned when they were alive. And so this young dude goes to his father and says, I'm leaving and I want my portion of the inheritance now. So that's like saying, I don't care about you, I just want your stuff. So it would be better if you were dead. Now that hits me pretty hard. Like, I just told you about how we treat my dad when we were kids, wanting gifts more than we wanted him. And sure, we were little. But I've been thinking about these things lately because, well, my dad actually is dead now. This last week, actually, July 8th, marks the 1-year anniversary of his death. So he's passed, and so I know what it means to receive an inheritance. Like, I know what the son is asking for here, and I just want to scream at him, don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't know what you're asking for. I would give my entire inheritance back if I could have my dad with me again. If I could have just one more day with him, I would give it all back. But this kid looks at his dad and says, I'd rather have my inheritance than you. And what's crazy is the father gives it to him. He lets his son take his stuff and run off and spend it on all sorts of just dumb things. Like parties, stuff, flings, like everything he wastes his inheritance on and completely runs out of money. And none of it was worth it. Like all the fun he had, the happiness he thought he'd find, was all gone in the harsh light of morning. And we're told he got to the point where he couldn't even afford to eat. And he was looking at pig slop and wishing he could have a bite. And that's when Jesus says he came to his senses. So when he looked around at all the things he thought would fill him up and make him happy, the stuff, the money, the freedom, and figured out that it was all worthless at the end of the day. It was all empty. That's when he came to his senses and remembered his father. He thought about his father, and even the people who worked for him were happy and had enough to eat. And so he makes this decision. He gets up and he starts the long walk home. And while he walked, he was thinking of all the things he could say. Father, I'm so sorry. I wasted your money on worthless things. I shouldn't even be called your son anymore. If you would just take me back as a servant. Like he's rehearsing these things he's going to say. And then as he comes over the hill with his father's house in the distance, he sees someone running towards him. And it's his dad. And his father doesn't even give him time to speak. He's too busy embracing him and welcoming him back. He says, look, my son who was dead is alive again. Like the father wasn't standing on the front porch with his arms crossed and foot tapping, waiting to scold him for his recklessness. He was so happy his son came back that he threw a party. I think a lot of us don't realize that that's how God feels about us. But Jesus says that that's what God is like. He's not standing around waiting to judge us and reject us. He is on the edge of his seat, just waiting to welcome us home with open arms. And Jesus is proof of that. So I believe that Jesus is God. And he didn't just sit around in heaven waiting for us to somehow clean ourselves up and get good enough for him to have us. He came to us. And when he came, his mission wasn't to shame us, but to show us how lacking and disappointing our search for happiness apart from him is. And he didn't just stop there. He didn't just stop at showing us how bad we have it and how good we could have it with him, because he is where fullness of life is found. He didn't just go far enough to show us how good we could have it, but he made a way for us to get back into that relationship. He died on the cross in our place for our sins. He took on our sins so that we could have his righteousness and his fullness and his place with God. And then he rose again to show us that he really did conquer all those things that we hold on to. He rose again to show us that he conquered sin and death and brokenness. So if you ever see a crucifix, a Christian cross, maybe hanging on a church wall or in a house, and you see Jesus' arms open, spread wide on the cross. When you see that, I want you to remember that Jesus' open arms on the cross are God's open arms to you today. And what Jesus did on the cross was make a way for you to be welcomed home, for me to be welcomed home. All we have to do, like the kid in the story, is come to our senses. All we have to do is come to our senses and turn to go back home to him. And like the father in the story, he'll come running. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you think about yourself. He wants you. And real joy, real happiness, it's found in Him. So, right now, wherever you are, if you're in the sound of my voice, this is for you. If you want to be welcomed home by the Father today, all it takes is trusting what Jesus did for you on the cross. And you could pray to Him, talk to Him if that would help you, but the prayer doesn't save you, it's the faith. It's the trust that what Jesus did was for you. If you settle in your heart that Jesus is Lord and God raised Him from the dead, and trust that that's for you, He'll take care of the rest. Look, I'm not going to get to hug my dad again in this life. But I have a Father that is continually embracing me and welcoming me back from all the things that I run to. I want that for you. Isn't that what we're all really looking for? Turn to Him. Turn to Jesus, and He'll embrace you.
Friends, I've called this meeting of the leaders and the camp elders because our camp is in dire crisis. As you well know, the tyrant Tom Nook has burned down more than half the camp, and now he's nowhere to be found, and nor are his dragons. And what we need, elders, friends, is a leader who will carry us into the future and to heights that Camp Life has never been. Who better to lead than a leader with a story? And that's why today I present to you and ask, Jimmy, will you take the leadership role here at Camp Life? Man, are you kidding me? Jimmy, this guy doesn't know the difference between a soccer field and the dining hall. Give me a break.
And he nearly starved half the camp in the food fights of late June. I'll do it. Campers, these last 7 weeks have been amazing. We've returned to camp again and again, even when we didn't know why and the plot stopped making sense. And now that it's over, looking back, I think it's obvious, isn't it? The plane crashed and we were dead the whole time. There never was any camp. And now, live from Campus Life, it's Saturday night!